Well, I think I was probably similar to most of the guys that were, at our tryout camp, trying to figure out, if you're good enough, what the approach was going to be from the coaching staff, and underlying issue is, were you going to get a chance to make the team? And so for a lot of players, the hope was that they were going to be part of the group that was going to get selected at the end of camp. And so it's sort of your feeling out process, and twofold probably. As an individual, you're trying to perform so you get noticed by the coaching staff and the scouts that were at the camp. And then the second part of it is trying to get an understanding of what they were looking for and what they wanted.
All work.
Well, it's interesting because in today's world, you probably see more of that goal setting. Like, here's some of the things that we need to do to be successful tonight to beat X. Or a week later you're playing somebody else and you put up in a video session, or coaches give you 3 or 4 points that you need to work on. We basically we didn't have much of that. It was more about what we were able to do at a particular time. And so this preparation building up to Lake Placid was the big tool. Nobody really sat down and say, hey, we need to do this or we need to do that. And now we have a chance to be able to. I think the big goal that we really did look at was, we need to start this tournament out in a real positive way and try to win some hockey games. Because if you don't, even if in your first game, if you end up losing, that might cost you the opportunity to get to the medal round back in 1980. So, we knew in the back of our minds that, our first game was as crucial to the entire tournament as any game that we played in. And, once you got by the first game, and if you had success, then you're worried about the second game. At no time could you tap into 3 or 4 games. We weren't guaranteed to play the Russians. We weren't guaranteed to even get to the medal round. And so your focus really becomes staying in the moment. And our moment started in the first game, and actually a day before the Olympics opened up when we played Sweden. And that was all you thought about, what you needed to do individually to help your team have success in that game. And at the end of the game, if you were successful, then you got ready for the opening ceremonies the next day. And then the following day you're playing a heavy favorite Czech team that was one of the few teams that I think the Russians were going to be worried about, because they were good. They had the Stastny brothers, and they were equipped to beat anybody in the tournament. But from a standpoint of setting a goal, I don't think anybody, if they were honest with you, said, hey, one of our goals, if we do really well, would be to win the gold medal. No, that was a given. The Russians were going to win the gold medal. I mean, they had beaten the NHL All-Stars the year before 6-0, and we're a bunch of amateur college guys. I mean, yeah, it'd be fun to fantasize to beat them, but realistically, that's not going to happen. So in these short tournaments, it's about what's next. And what was next for us was our first game against Sweden.
Of that group.
I think the one thing, if you look back at the group, and I've told this a bunch of times, a good chunk of those players on that team had past experiences winning championships and were leaders of their respected college teams. So, 1977, Wisconsin, won the national championship in the NCAA, and Bobby Suter and I were on that team. And so, 78, Boston University won the national championship. You have Jim Craig, Dave Silk, guys that played at BU. And then in 79, a good chunk of the Minnesota guys that were on an Olympic team played for Herbie. In 79, Minnesota won the national championship. And so you look at Robbie McClanahan, Billy Baker, guys that were leaders on that team. Now we're on this Olympic team. So you pull all those guys together, and goodness sakes, you got 10, 11, 12 guys that were leaders on their teams that won championships. And as you look back on that, that underlying ability to know what it took to win championships was already in place. And then the early part of the trip that we were together and that team was starting to find out about each other was, who was going to be, the leaders amongst the leaders on this group. And I think as you spend time together, you travel around early on, and you've played anywhere from 10 to 12 exhibition games, or maybe 15 or 20. You start to get a sense of who were going to be the key guys on the team, who are going to be the guys that held other people accountable, and so you have this process where people start gravitating to certain roles on the team, and it might be I'm going to be a role player because if you look at the makeup and the group that was put together, and you went back the year before with their college teams, they all played in situations that they were leaders. And so the hard part when you bring a group together like we did in 1980 is you need time, you need games, you need adversity, you need success to try to filter kids. I call it a storming stage, where the early process of the camp, once you made the team, everybody's excited. The coaching staff's met their, your expectations where you're going to be on this team. The hard part is when the coach starts putting lines together, people in certain situations, who's going to play the power play, who's going to kill penalties, who's going to be on the ice for key face-offs, who's going to be on the ice at the end of games. Everybody on the team was used to being in those roles, and I think, with us, and I think a lot of teams that I've coached, you have this period of time, and it can last from anywhere from a month to the entire season, where guys are sorting themselves. They're trying to figure out what their role is going to be like. And then once they figure it out, are they going to accept that role and try to do it to help the team? And it's a process that takes time and energy.